Hi everyone, and welcome back to Pepple's Potager. So today is July 14th and we're in the middle of July here, and I got a lot going on in the garden that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, we're going to start off on the patio here, and as you can see, my peach sorbet blueberry bush is doing quite well. It's almost doubled, nearly tripled in size, so doing quite well here on the patio. And I don't expect to get any blueberries this year. Of course, I don't know too much about blueberries, but we'll see how it does. And moving on to the next one here, we have the strawberry shortcake raspberry bush, and that's supposed to get about 4 foot tall, and it's actually doubled in size, I believe, since we planted it there in the spring. So looking pretty good so far. And then moving on, I actually planted a couple more pepper plants here. These are the variegated pepper plants that I grow. I started growing these last year. These are the confetti peppers, and I planted a few of these on the patio here. There's one in this pot and one in that pot, and then right behind that you have the 4th of July tomatoes, which typically do produce tomatoes by the 4th of July, but I actually got them in late, so that's why I haven't gotten any tomatoes off of these yet this year. But as you can see, they are doing quite well. They're more than halfway up the stake there. And then there's another one right behind that. You can see it's doing quite well. And this one I actually have in this pot 2 tomato plants growing in this one, so they're doing quite well growing together here. And I'll probably be picking some of these 4th of Julys here soon. And then let's go ahead and walk on around here. We're going to walk back to the Potager garden. Alright, my potatoes are doing quite well in the greenhouse there, but we don't need to walk in there and take a look. Just to know they're doing quite well. They'll probably be done here about another 2 weeks or so. But here is the Tempest and Zephyr squash here in this bed, and they have done quite well. The vines are now actually growing out of the beds, and these are powdery mildew resistant squash, and so far they've been doing pretty well in that category. And as you can see, I left some squash on there a little too long, so I'm gonna have to pick a few of these, but it's still going strong. It looks like I may have some squash borers showing up here, so may not be getting squash for too much longer. So we'll probably be pulling these out here within the next week or two, probably. And moving on around here, you can see there is a little bit of powdery mildew, and although these are powdery mildew resistant squash, that doesn't mean they won't get powdery mildew. They can still get powdery mildew. They're just better at fighting off the powdery mildew. And as you can see, there is a little bit there. Alright, moving on to the Dunja zucchini. You can see they've done quite well so far, and they're not looking that great right now. I think the squash borers probably got to these as well. And I do have quite a few zucchini on these plants here that I need to pick. You can see I got a really big one there I need to pick off of there. And there's another one back there. But the powdery mildew resistance on these have done quite well. There is a sign of a little bit of powdery mildew on some of the leaves, but for the most part it has resisted the powdery mildew quite well. So I'm very pleased with how they're doing as far as their disease resistance. And I'm also very pleased with the amount of zucchini I've gotten off these 4 plants. I think I've at least gotten 30 or more zucchini off of them already, and I still got more on there growing. So the squash growers will probably take these plants out, and I'll be taking them out here in about another 2 weeks maybe. And then probably beginning of August I might plant some more zucchini and squash in these 2 beds. But we'll move on over here to the corn. And as you can see, the corn is doing quite well. This is the Silver Queen corn, and they grew up to almost 9 foot tall. And I haven't measured to see how tall they were, but they are getting there. And we do have some silks popping out here. You can see some right there. And the plants overall are doing very well, considering I have not fertilized these since I put them in the ground. So they are looking very, very green, nice looking foliage. So I haven't had to fertilize this corn at all since I've planted them. I amended the bed with leaf grow compost, and then when I put the plants in here, I added some Job's fertilizer to each plant, and that's kept them going since I put them in the raised beds. And I have noticed that something did try to rip off one of the corn silks here, and I don't know what that was. I'm assuming it might have been a squirrel or something like that, but kind of hard to believe something's already trying to get to them. But doing quite well here so far this year. And look way up there, look at how tall these silver queens are. Huge plants. And it looks like I may be getting 1 or 2 on each stalk here. I see a couple of plants that have more than one silk growing out here, but doing pretty good. And the blackberries, the thornless blackberries, doing quite well. Still putting out a lot of berries here, so can't complain about these. They always do quite well. And moving on to the sugar cube melons. And as you can see, since my last video, they have grown completely to the top of the trellis here. And blossoms everywhere. Both sides are almost all the way to the top of the trellis. So doing very, very well. I don't see any cantaloupes forming just yet. Well, maybe there is. There's one right there. So got one forming there already. That's good. So I can't wait to see how well these do. Alright, so moving on to the Blue Lake stringless green beans. As you can see, they are doing quite well. They've completely filled out the bean arbor now, so you can walk straight through it. You see all the marigolds I got there at the bottom. But even though they've filled out the entire arbor for right now, there are no blossoms on them. So I suspect they will be coming out soon. You can even see, well, there's a blossom right there, actually. But you can see some of these beans are actually climbing over to the bean vines are climbing over to the cantaloupe trellis too. So I might have to trim some of those off there. So looks like some of the flowers are starting to come out maybe. So looking very good at the moment. Let's walk on around here. We'll take a look at this side. And you can see they're going all the way over the top there. So looking great at the moment. And the peppers I planted right here in front of the beans. You can see they're doing very, very well. Oh, look there. Look at that. I'm not even sure what that is. Looks kind of like a small hummingbird, but not sure. Anyway, the peppers are doing quite well. I planted these maybe a few weeks ago. And the zinnia are all doing well there. And moving on down to the tomatoes here, you can see some of the large Cherokee purples are still moving on. And you see that one there is probably going to be quite large. And there's another one there that's pretty big. And the Cherokee purples are more than halfway up the trellis here. Doing very, very well. No disease problems. No pests at the moment that I can see. So I'm very pleased with how the Cherokee purples are doing this year. Quite a few tomatoes growing here, so doing very, very well. We're going to move around to the mortgage lifters. And I'd just like to say the mortgage lifters, I believe, are going to outperform the Cherokee purples. They are known to be very, very prolific. Look at that large cluster of tomatoes there, and a large cluster there. And one thing I'd like to take note of is, look at it. It's all the way over the top of the trellis. These things are doing fabulous. I've never seen any of my tomato plants grow this fast to the top of the trellis, but these are all the way to the top and over. As well as they are doing now, I would say they'd probably be up to 10 feet by the end of the season. But obviously my trellis don't go that high, so I will probably be trimming some of them off. So very, very impressive mortgage lifter tomatoes here going on. I'd say it's probably the most prolific beefsteak tomato plant that I've grown so far. I've never seen one do this quite well in my garden, and so I'm very, very pleased. And that's all I got for you for now. I'm not going to give an update on the fruit trees. They're still doing well, but they're not really producing a lot of fruit, so only a few fruits on there. But still like to reiterate how well these mortgage lifters are doing. Might have to do some pruning here, but that's all I have for now. So if you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.